From the
I don't know what to say. I'm just speechless.
to the
I can't believe it.
we see all sorts of life-changing moments at McKinney Competitions. How would you react? Cars, houses, tech bundles and more from just £2 a ticket. No purchase necessary. For competitions, rules and conditions, see mckinneycompetitions.com.
Men are born this way. There's the confidence issue of men. Like, a few of our members would have walked up and down that empty maybe 10 times before they had the confidence to walk over the door. And once they're over the door, you've sort of had them captured.
Right.
And it's just that wee step over the door. This is a big thing for men to do, you know. I knew that the men's shed was going to have an AGM that year in Dublin, and President Higgins was the patron of the men's sheds. So I says to the boys, if you get acquired together, I says, I guarantee you it's to the president at the end of the year.
Do you see the memories that have been generated?
Yeah.
That's the outcome of it. Memories have been generated, and that the measure of the good memories is bad memories.
Yeah.
So yes, that is still talked about.
I think at the very start there was something like 60 odd sheds just trying to gel together, north and south in 2011, and now in 2019, last count, there was 460 sheds.
That's crazy.
That's 12,000 men doing something every day that never would have done in their lives.
See,
That
they
saved their
probably-
lives, you know. Just give them a
Yeah.
different focus in life, you know.
For this week's podcast, I parked up at the Shambles and crossed over the road to meet up with Stephen and Dessie from Armagh's Men's Shed. This is your host, Elaine Ingram, and today Stephen and Dessie tell us all about the Men's Shed in Armagh and how it came about and what something like this has meant to men all across Ireland, and how they're looking for more men to come along and see what it's all about. I'm here right in the middle of the city of Armagh with Stephen and Dessie from Armagh Men's Shed, and you're going to tell me all about men's sheds, how this started, the whole shebang. So first of all, Stephen, you can tell me your involvement with the men's shed and how it all began.
I got involved with the men's shed about 8 years ago through funding from a group called COT. It's the Cooperation and Working Together. It's like a cross-border funding. And a couple of girls in the trust got me involved, and we've seen the launch of the men's shed in Dundalk. I just thought it was the bee's knees. I couldn't wait to get home to start our own shed up. So within 6 weeks, we actually had a wee group together to start our shed. And shortly after that, we got these premises. So it just snowballed from there.
Tell us, tell us what exactly is a men's shed.
It's a place where men are funny beasts, so they are, and they don't like being out of their comfort zone. But this is a place in the initial stages. It was for men, retired men, that I suppose to get them out from under the feet of their wives at home.
Right.
And we know this, of course, because they've come and told us. And it's not the first wife that has taken their husband.
And who's told you? Is it the wives or the
Oh,
husbands?
the wives.
Oh,
Oh,
right.
the wives. Oh, yes. Oh, the husbands wouldn't tell you. But they've taken their husbands down and deposited them here. And they would be out of their...
That's not the wall now.
No. But they'd be out of their comfort zone for a while. And then once they get... it's not... Men...
It's a confidence thing with men. Men don't
is.
have confidence, you know.
It is.
Yeah,
But
they say men are
once,
from Mars and women are from Venus, and it really is true. There's a different way of communicating in a different
You
way.
can go into any hotel in the country and you see women sitting around drinking a cup of tea or coffee, chatting together. You never see men doing that. Unless there's a business meeting or something and something that they have to get out of it, you know.
Yeah,
Or
men
drink.
tend to bond over. Yeah, I was going to say it's either in the pub or it's over a game of football
Or the turkeys.
or the bookies, and
Well,
it's
they're not
never.
looking at each other talking, they're looking at the optics or they're looking at the television. Not
Interact with each other, really.
strange.
Yeah,
So they are.
and is this just in men's nature? Do you think, or is it something that they've been? Oh, this is a big question. Is this the way men have been, brought up? Is it nature or nurture? You know, what I'm asking is, are men born this way or are they made this way? Do you think? Obviously, you're not psychiatrists, but I'm just curious to know what
having
you
been
think.
in the shed for 8 or 9 years, you think men are born this way. There's the confidence issue of men. Like, a few of our members would have walked up and down that empty 10 times before they had the confidence to walk over the door.
Yeah.
And once they're over the door, you've sort of had them captured.
Right.
And it's just that wee step over the door. This is a big thing for men to do, you know.
And is it a big relief, do you think, when they do finally step over that threshold?
Well, we know it has been, yes, because they've said so. And I can speak for myself in this, in that I found it came at the right time for me. Some people, we're social beings, so we are. We need people.
Yeah.
And we need to be out and about. And having worked all my life, and then after an illness and couldn't work, I had to be doing something, had to get out. When I heard about this place, I said, well, I'd give it a visit. And I gave it the visit, and I liked it, and I've been coming back. And then in between times I took it again, and that in itself, whilst I was ill, the camaraderie of the people here. Stephen now would have called me once a week, if not twice a week.
Make sure you're still alive.
Yes, and well, told me what was going on, what was happening, and kept me informed. There would have been at times, and I suppose there's still at times with us all, when the phone rang, God, who's that? And yet with all, when you're told who it is, I'm not in.
Yeah.
And then it's Stiofan McCleirigh, so I just want to talk to him.
Okay.
So, in other words, he wasn't bringing that only news and how you were doing. He was concerned. Other people were looking, you still working, boy? You know, I could do with you. And that sort of thing you could do without when you're ill. But it was a lifesaver to me at that, so I'm still here.
How long ago was that, Dessie?
Well, it's difficult to say, but in 1917, I went through another. Now I would have been in the
2017.
Or 2017.
You're not that old.
I had to go in and get a lung removed, but before that, I had to. Chemo for
really?
cancer, my neck. So that would have been before that. So it's. I find that I need to have things to relate to. My father used to say, well, in 1920, it was the day before St. Patrick's Day, and we went out fishing or swimming or whatever. I can't do that.
Yes,
I need something to relate to.
Yeah.
So I do.
And I'm sure you needed so much support at that time in your life, you know, that having...
well, yes. Once I got up and out and about, yes. But to be quite honest, when you're on chemo, like, you're just not yourself.
Yeah.
So you're not. But the men's shed was a blessing to me. It came at the right time, so it did.
Yeah.
And then when my wife died, again, the support that I got from the men's shed. So yes, we're social creatures and we need it, and there's a camaraderie within it that we all need. And I suppose all sheds are different, really. But the one thing is the camaraderie.
Yeah, they'd all have that in common, I'm sure.
Yeah.
And
I think every town needs a men's shed, and every man needs a men's shed.
well, they have. When did they start?
They first came to Ireland in 2009, but they didn't really find their feet to 2011. We started a group called the Irish Men's Shed Association. I was involved in it for 6 years as director, and they sort of snowballed from there.
But it really did snowball, because all
Yeah.
of a sudden they popped up everywhere. So it really
It
does
did.
show
It
that
came
there's...
It wouldn't have
at the bar.
happened in the Celtic Tiger years, because people are too busy. I was busy myself at the roof at that time. It wouldn't have happened. People hadn't the time to do it. It's just when that started the recession, it started to go mad, because I think at the very start there was something like 60 odd sheds just trying to gel together, north and south, in 2011, and now in 2019, last count, there was 460 sheds.
That's crazy.
That's 12,000 men doing something every day that never would have done their lives.
See,
That
they
saved their
probably-
lives, you know. Just give a
yeah.
different focus in life, you know.
They probably, a lot of people would have lost their jobs and things like that at that
Yeah.
time. So they needed that. They needed somewhere to go and something to do. And yeah, it wasn't going to be just the pub. And men clearly do need other men to talk to, but it just took somebody. It just took
Yeah.
somebody to say, right, let's just make this happen.
Ours
And-
took off very quickly after. We had the 6 initial fellas round the table talking, and we got the premises and just bang.
Just blossom.
Within months, we had something like 35 members, and at our height, there was 90 members.
And
in
how
our
did
shed.
you start it? How did you actually go about saying right?
I talk to
I'm
people on a one-to-one basis, because
Yeah.
if you put a notice in a paper, we're starting a men's shed, they'll think there's something to do with a shed in the garden, or they'll think they're building sheds or something like that.
Because at that time, yeah,
It's very
it wasn't
hard to
widely
explain.
known. Yeah,
The concept, once you sit down talking one-to-one to a person about the concept of a shed, and then arrange for a busload of boys to go and visit Dundalk shed, and Drogheda men's shed at the time was just starting up, and most of the people in the bus could get the concept, and they stayed with the shed. Some of them didn't get it, you know.
yeah.
But once they seen the lack of a shed up and running, they know exactly what it was. So now in Armagh, we are sort of the go-to shed for a lot of sheds in the north that was starting up. They came to see what was going on in Armagh, and they went back to, say, Belcoo, to be an example, Belcoo, Kesh, South Armagh, Lisleigh. All these sheds came here first to see what was going on and how to set up a shed, and they just went on and done their own. And some of them, Rostrevor, for example, we went down to the initial meeting over Rostrevor men's shed setting up, and they're the most successful shed in the island at the minute. They have a serious amount of men, a great premises, a great relationship in Newry and Mourne Council for free premises. But it's just getting that group of boys together that gets it. And they got that group together that gets it. A lot of retired men around Rostrevor. It's it's a more affluent part of the country, as you want it. But they all got it, and they gelled together, and they just flew on, you know.
And
Rostrevor, one of the boys in Rostrevor is now chair of the Irish Men's Shed Association, and another member is on the board of directors.
wow.
So that just shows you the input.
And they're not around as long as you then.
No.
No, they came here first to see how the thing went.
Yeah.
How it started off, and it's
Cushion dolls and other examples.
yeah,
of the shed
it was all word of mouth. As we got members, and each member meets their friends and money out now. They would have said, and they even passed it on amongst themselves what they're doing. That they were passing it on. Others then came and took a look, and others came and took a look and said it wasn't for them, and they just didn't come back. The thing is, people that need to be kept occupied, men that need to be kept occupied. It's all right for these people that, like to sit in the pub from 11 o'clock in the morning and book back courses and all the rest. But a lot of people aren't like that. Men like to be kept occupied with men.
Yeah.
Because if you take it the like of Stephen and myself, I was the spark. I worked with men building sites. He worked with men on building sites.
And you'd have the
roofing.
crack there. You'd have
Yes,
the banter.
Yeah,
And
but the thing about
eyes every day.
yeah, but the thing about it was there was also people come in here that weren't in those crafts, but they come in and they found out that they had hands.
yeah.
They made things. There's that. I'm looking at
Jigsaw.
Jigsaw.
Wow,
Let's
that's
look at the
a
lorry,
really
look at that
intricate
lorry.
Yes.
jigsaw puzzle in front of me
There's
here.
an example there. Look, that's made from
I
scrap
think
wood.
of one of
Wow.
our members worked in an office situation, so he did, and we're not a school, we're not a teaching school, but we can pass on skills that we've got, so we have, and passed on to him. Now he's probably one of the best that we'll have here in making anything out of wood. So yes, people find out that I didn't know Herbie's another one. They picked up the skills, but we're not a school, we're not a teaching academy or anything like that. But we pass on to, because this is the way it was in the olden days when you
That's
done
exactly
an
what I was going to
apprenticeship.
say. It is like
Yes.
very much like
Teaching each other.
it's
Yes.
it's craft. It's,
Yes.
it's all these old crafts that
Yeah.
are coming to the fore, and they're sort of things that men traditionally like to do and have done like historically. How did you? What do you do? What crafts do you do here? You know, what do you make? It's mostly woodwork.
Mostly woodwork. We do a wee bit of leather work and a bit of copper beating now and again, but it's mostly woodwork.
And would people come? Have you got like is it one or two nights a week, or can people just
every
come?
day?
It's open every day, and somebody's here every day, so people pop in and out and just work on their whatever. Yeah, they're working on, and whoever's here is here, and whoever isn't.
We have to be sustainable as well. So if we organise, for example, we sell a lot of stuff around Christmas, but we start organising for Christmas in September. We make wee snowmen and logs and all, just to have a.
And would you sell them in shops or in
sell
craft
them in
fairs?
shops or craft fairs?
Right,
but it doesn't
and probably in the market.
In the market,
yeah.
It doesn't put pressure on the men. It means they come and go, you know, in their own time. There's no set time. It's not like we don't want to lay it back like a factory situation again.
Yeah,
it has to be kept informed, as most informed as possible. So we start in September making Christmas stuff, and there's no pressure. Sitting maybe 10 boxes sitting ready to go in November, December to start selling. Yeah. And it's the same now for, you've seen the wee board boxes we're making down there. There's a sale on the 10th of April in the West Armagh Consortium building, and we'll be selling stuff, making stuff now to be ready for the 10th of Aprul now.
So that's what all those bird boxes in there, all those colourful bird boxes.
The women of Armagh will go mad for them when they see them. But the whole idea of Men's Shed is what was the formal way to say Men's Shed? Men's Shed is a safe and welcoming place for men to come and have, you know, a safe environment. Where the informal is to just come down for a bit of crack, cup of tea, tell lies and listen to a load of lies and stories and whatnot, and just have fun. It's about giving you a different focus in life. It's about getting you up out of bed and maybe putting a wee skip in your step. I'm going to the shed today, as opposed to getting up. Like one of our members always said, he got up in the morning, he sat down in the living room to watch the telly, and he was sitting watching rubbish in the telly for hours. Yeah. And then get up and he's dinner, go back and watch the telly. Now he comes to the Men's Shed, and he's a reason to get up. He's up earlier in the morning, the wife says, and he's bringing stuff home to he made. He's like a child coming home from school. Look what I made today, you know.
Yeah, because it's
a whole different focus.
Yeah, when people retire, there is that something to get up for in the morning. You know, if you are just getting up to sit in front of the TV, or you know, there's nothing, actual focus, but having something, somewhere to go and something to do that's specific. Yeah,
it's a life changer for men. It's a life saver for men, you know.
How many men do you have at the moment
here?
At
the moment we have 35 regulars roughly.
35 regulars. And they come every day?
When we do a health check, say, and we do one in June every year, you have 90 odd men comes to that. Like the local taxi drivers come for their MOT basically. Right.
Oh, you do a health check. Tell me about that.
It's organised by Action Cancer. Just comes in, you get your cholesterol, your blood, your weight, your height, and then you get advice on nutrition. But we do health awareness programs once every month. So
in the programs themselves that you do here now, you said that you're not. You say that like you're not a school, obviously. So who is it? People that are a part of the shed that bring their skills and say, right, well, I am I know about woodwork, so I will show people what to do. Yeah. So is it volunteers within the group?
Well, we would have as we've seen there the wood, but you heard Stephen mention copper beating and leather beating and all the rest. In the initial stages, we paid somebody to come in to show us how to do that. Right. And then when they went, we were able to remember most of it or some of it.
Oh God, that sounds like a disaster waiting to happen. That's when you have we've got 5 screws left over. I know, they were extras. Trying to put together a flat pack furniture. These must be just extras until it falls down.
The very first machine we got, Eamon Burke, God rest him, Eamon passed away there this year. Eamon helped me to put it together. It was a big band, so we still have it down there. And it was all put together, and there's these 2 bits left over.
Oh dear.
Where the frick did they go? Excuse my language, where did they go? Well, I've actually got a fella in that knew they were missing from
something very important.
An important part of the machine, but Eamon was like, they would just ferret it together and just, it'll go. But he's a big mister, Shed.
But when there's if the members say in the initial stages too, they wanted to know about computers, so we had classes, so we had to get somebody in that could teach them. Some of us came with those skills,
so somebody could join in and say, well, actually,
Yes, So if it's something like that, we get somebody in to teach us. They'll come in and give us a course of 4, 5, 6 weeks, or whatever way they run it. Photography was another one.
Oh, that's brilliant.
Yes. So we had a few cameras here. A lot of the members had their own cameras, and we would have gone out, round and about, shooting trees, birds, lakes, grass, and getting exercise and a walk and a chat, and dirty and all that there that you done when you're kids.
Yeah.
And of course the weather isn't always great here, but that didn't matter. We were out, then we came back, and then this is where the computers come in. Again, you could hook it up to the computer. Oh gee, look at that. And then again, well, we can print these off, so we don't develop them now and print them off. So they did. So there's buys away with and now they can all do it on their own camera, because nobody took their camera at that time, way back in the beginning. Cameras was the thing. And now everybody's got their mobile phone and can take photographs with their camera. And we've, I suppose, we give some people the basic, what I would call it?
Just the skills.
Well, skills would cover it, yes, how to use that. And then we had iPads came along.
Right.
And there was one amongst us, and we got somebody in for a few to show how to use an iPad, just an iPad.
These are all just useful life
I remember
skills.
one of the iPad things was one of the men wanted to know how to use Skype. Because
he wanted to speak
his
to them
granddaughter
with
was in
his
Australia.
Right.
And I think it was 6 of the class one of the days teaching them how to use Skype to talk to their grandchildren. But I thought that was brilliant to have
It is
to do.
brilliant, because these are things that a lot of people take for granted, especially, well, I suppose
young people can fly.
Well, they're just bored.
I have grandchildren can go look at there on their phones. It's scary. 3-year-old.
They seem to be born able to do that.
I know. Well, when you see the little ones, going over to the TV and trying to make it with their fingers, like trying to make it bigger. It's like, no, that's not going to work on a TV screen. But it just goes to show a way it's a completely different generation. They're brought up with this, but people forget that older people, that none of this stuff existed. So it is just about learning it. It's not that anybody's less intelligent than anyone else. It's just that we didn't have, this stuff wasn't around. So you do need to learn it.
But even the woodwork on there, Elaine, it's about empowering the men to do something for themselves and just realising that they can do it if they're shown once. Like we have a fellow there, Pat Moore he likes to be mentioned PGM Models. That's his business. He's a member of the shed, but he was able to teach the boys how to make the like of these lorries and these cars. Like that's made out of scrap.
They are so intricate. I'm going to have to take a photograph of these before we leave.
That's a model of a taxi that was used in the film, not Ghostbusters. I can't think of the name of the film, but there's a model of that anyway.
Yeah.
First class. Now, you imagine a man, Patsy Carson, for example. Patsy's in his late 80s, and Patsy made a car and took it home. He just was amazed. A big Daimler, black Daimler car. He was a postman all his life. He would never have dreamed of doing stuff like that.
Yeah.
But Pat empowered him
so you're
how
just
to do that.
You're finding all these skills that you didn't even know you had. And some of the paintings I've seen are fantastic.
Yeah. We done a paint by numbers scheme at the start of lockdown.
Right.
So it's a wee bit of cheating going on, but it basically says don't mess with painting by numbers. But
well, you see, you have now.
It was something that the boys, there was say 5 or 6 of them took it on to do. Some of them couldn't handle the wee small numbers, but it was just something. You can see the examples of some of them there, and we were buying them, say,
so anybody who's just has told their wives or anybody else that this isn't painted by numbers, they just did this. They're like Picasso or something.
We've sold.
The cat's out of the bag.
I'd say we've sold about 20 since we started. So from lockdown, we made them during lockdown. So in the Christmas fair over in the consortium buildings there, we sold 6 of them in the one day, like £20 each.
Pop-up shop that we
had
Christmas, quite a number of them went.
Yeah.
So they did. And
the paint was just ideal for them to do during lockdown.
I was going to ask you about lockdown. How did lockdown affect you? How difficult was it? Because obviously, especially during the first lockdown when everything was shut down, you weren't able to meet. It affected us
badly because you try to keep in touch as much as possible on the men, but we lost a couple to COVID as well, which was hard.
Oh, that's
some
difficult.
strong members, and there are a couple of members now who can't come back because they've got long COVID, they've lung problems and that there, you know.
Really?
They can't go into a dusty environment. So lockdown was tough, especially in the older people. It was very tough, you know.
Yeah, because I suppose you're just keeping in touch by phone and things like that. Just
No.
no.
It was another aspect that it was Stephen that started off, because none of us knew about this.
Zoom. Are you going to say
this
no?
thing called WhatsApp. What's what? What's who? Who, what, where, when, WhatsApp. But that came later on in the lockdown. But only the weather was good now, and people then started to learn to, and even walk with their wives.
Well, this is it. Yeah. Did you get to go out for walks at all in groups? When we
No.
were allowed?
No. In the beginning.
Well, not in the beginning. You couldn't do that. No.
But only the weather was good. A lot of us might have ended up in the nut house, to use an expression. But it was tough. But then the WhatsApp allowed us to keep in touch. So that was another skill that they learned. What's what, who, what's a what's a who? Is this a poem or what? And you've got smart remarks like that. But then it turned out, now we use the WhatsApp for letting members know what's going on, what's happening.
It's very handy, WhatsApp group chats, because then you just let everybody know what's going on or what's coming.
We didn't know what it was.
Yeah, well, now you know.
And it was Stephen that set it up and let us know, and then we all knew what was going on. And
that means everybody has to have smartphones, though, now. I suppose there
was one member, he's not with us anymore, but he had a telephone.
Can you use WhatsApp on a telephone?
he had a telephone, so he didn't know what a smartphone was.
Right.
He just had a telephone. It just made telephone calls.
Imagine that.
Uh-huh.
Do you remember those days?
When you wind the handle up, no?
Oh yeah, I remember those ones.
No, he was very proud. He could hook it onto his belt.
Right.
And he was very proud. I mean, you only seen this in this Star Trek, but he didn't know what a smartphone was, so he didn't. But yes, most everybody has a smartphone now.
Yeah.
So that you pull out a brick like that now, and people look at you.
Get ready to shake up summer with the Get Active ABC Sunshine Fill programme for kids and families. Get set for land-based adventure at our summer schemes, or why not get adventurous and maybe get wet at our Splashtastic Water Sports summer programme. There are so many things to do, and all we need is you. See getactiveabc.com/summer for all the details.
I'm looking at President Higgins there.
There he is.
The most successful thing we done here was to start a choir, a men's choir.
Oh, tell us about that.
It started with initially 8 members and went up to about 12, 14.
You mentioned Marty Rafferty when I was
Marty was our first.
Marty was one of our
instrumentalist.
podcast guests.
Our conductor, for
Very
one of better
talented.
words. It was
man.
Kathleen O'Hare. Kathleen was our administrator at the time. It was her idea. I knew that the men's shed was going to have an AGM that year in Dublin, and President Higgins was the patron of the men's sheds. So I says to the boys, we get a choir together. I says, I'll guarantee you to sing for the president at the end of the year.
That was a big
laughed,
guarantee.
they laughed, But I was the board of directors, so I was able to manipulate that. So what I done was get choirs from different parts, different men's sheds from around the company to introduce the AGM in Dublin. It was in the Helix Centre in Dublin. So we landed down, the boys sung, I think with the biggest bar bill ever. Our bar bill was enormous that night. We stayed in the Plaza Hotel that night. It was brilliant crack, but for them to sing for the President of Ireland was something.
Was everybody able to sing, or were you just hoping for the best?
Well, they all turned up. It was 15 of us.
But the thing was, the event was over and all. Well, you go for the obligatory drink, so you do.
Yeah.
But things got going, and it ended up there was a pile of Dutch girls wanted to join us. Now I wasn't there.
Girls aren't allowed in the men's shed, right?
But I think they were at it 6 o'clock in the morning.
Oh my
People
God.
were going to bed, so they were.
Right.
So this again, this would still be talked about, so it would, which is how I know about it, because I was there, but I had to come home for an engagement, so I had. But people are still talking about that time, and not necessarily a pile of Dutch girls that came to join them.
The gate crash.
Because there was music.
It was the crack they had.
There was the crack.
Yeah.
That's right. So
because it's so easy to fall into a rut and forget what it's like to just go and have a bit of crack.
yes, but you see the memories that have been generated.
Yeah.
That's the outcome of it. Memories have been generated, and they might as well be good memories as bad memories.
Yeah.
So yes, that is still talked about.
Did you get to meet
Oh, he was here and
Did you
they
get
were
to
singing.
speak to him?
They were singing
Yeah, I see him in the picture, yeah.
They were singing a song, "Little Old Wine Drinker Me," and there
Oh,
was
yeah,
a
I
wee
know that.
president was tapping away at his feet. He was really enjoying
Well,
it.
we all know he loves his music and his poetry and his.
And a few of us got down then to Aris and Uachtaráin for a
What's it like?
big garden. It's a lovely wee place. Him and the wives are real down to earth people, like.
That's in the Phoenix Park, isn't it?
Yeah,
Yeah.
real down to earth, lovely people, like.
Really?
Lovely food and all. It was great there. So
Did they feed you and everything?
Oh, I fed and watered and sent home in great form.
Was it the whole lot? How many of you were? Or was it just special people like you?
It was just the board of directors of the men's shed and a couple of other ones,
Invitation only.
Yeah.
But it was great to get down there, like, and then when he came to Armagh, he made a beeline for us. He was up in the Palace Stables in Armagh, and he seen the men's shed stand, so he come straight over to us.
Yeah.
I met using Dublin, so you remember meeting us. He spoke that day in the Higgins, and he says, whenever a man's feeling down, he says, go out into your men's shed, he says, and make a board box, and that'll cheer you up.
Yeah.
And so that's probably does, just going out and doing something, or going. It's probably, as Dessie's always says, the collective gathering together of men.
Without a doubt.
Well,
I mean,
as you said, we are social beings. You know.
You can do. There's limitations to what you can do on your own, but who wants to be working on their own? Whenever I was working, when I first started work, I was a TV service engineer, and I had been round. This was at a time when TVs, if they went for a month, that was good. They were constantly breaking down. But I worked for a rental firm, and I would have been in houses where there was people on their own. And you say to yourself, this isn't for me, but you were there and you take a look at the place. Men. But anyway, I seen men on their own and people on their own. And I like people. Now we fight and argue and we discuss things and we have differences of opinion. But that's human nature. We're not all a chip of the one block. But being on your own's not for me.
Yeah. And there's so many people out there that feel the same way.
Well, I've seen so much that old men and wee ramshackled houses. Not been derogatory here or anything like that. I'm not, but they no life.
Yeah, and they don't even realise it a lot of the time. It's just an acceptance.
Well, yes, but that was way back in the 70s, and maybe it was nothing about. Maybe that's just what, when you're retired, you just do what you do. But not now. Like, I'm retired. Yeah. And most of the ones in the men's shed are retired. Not them all. But you see how things have changed. We've developed this. We're out and about now, and we don't wear dirty old clothes like guys. I can close my eyes and see all this way back. Imagine sitting looking at a test card when you get up in the morning. Yeah. Because that's all there was to 5 o'clock.
And I think that the way it is as well is like, it's fantastic having the men's shed, but we've just evolved as people. I mean, age is different. It's looked at differently now than it was years ago. It used to be a case, like even for women, it was like as soon as you got to a certain age, you had to cut your hair short and get a blue rinse. I mean, when you think of it now, it's like,
and if you're ready, you had to wear dark clothes and all.
Yeah, and that was it. Once you got to a certain age, it was like, right, just that's it. Your life is over.
Society, like,
So society has changed so much.
It has, and we like to think that we've contributed to some of that. So
absolutely, yeah. Do you think it's very important that it's exclusive to men? I mean, you could say, right, well, there's groups. You could have a choir where there's men and women or whatever. But do you think because this is specific to men, it's important? Because, yeah, as you say, like women, there are different things out there for women. There are more things out there. Women just tend to...
Women are great at communicating. But there's always been an argument, even on the board of directors, with this men's sheds and women coming into men's sheds. And I would be totally opposed to women joining the men's shed. They can start their own shed or their own thing, because there's hen sheds about and different things about different wards. But I think a men's shed should be exclusive to men, because they can be themselves in the men's shed.
Yeah.
But a woman just changes the whole
dynamics
of the shed. That's the good word, dynamics of the shed.
Yeah.
Because
I would definitely agree with you, because there are things that are exclusively for women, and that's perfectly fine. I don't think it's exclusionary. I think it's just something that's especially for men, and there are the same. There are groups that are especially for women. So likewise, there should be something that should be exclusively for
men. I get asked that question all the time. But now, coming up to Christmas there, we would run a craft class for women, making like them wee cottages or making Christmas stuff. We've done it for a few years in a row there, and that's great. They come in, make their stuff, and then they're away.
Yeah.
But
they're just invited guests.
One of the groups that come here, they're already an established group of women that do stuff every year together, so they don't need a shed.
Yeah.
They can come to a men's shed and do stuff like that, and then go home and go back to doing whatever else they do, in different groups.
Yeah.
But I think a men's shed should be exclusive for men.
Yeah. And what about funding now?
We're so indebted to the lottery, because only for the lottery this year's going now 8 years.
Because you need a lot of equipment, and you need to pay for people to come in if they do give you classes and things like that. There are costs, and I know you said you sell your stuff, so that would contribute a lot to the upkeep. But you have two buildings here. This where we're sitting now was your original men's shed.
Yeah. It was.
And then what happened? You got an.
We had the same amount of money, but the next door came idle, and we secured it, and we were able to just fly on. You can see the size of next door.
And it's like a proper workshop.
New tools and all, but it wouldn't happen only for money from the National Lottery. Like, the first 2 years was from COT. It was sort of running costs, so I run the place fondly for 2 years. Yeah,
but I mean, you must have had costs like to set the thing up initially.
Yeah. Well,
you would have
COT paid all that for setting up.
Okay.
For so many machines, it was in here. Actually, imagine it was how small it was. But then we was successful. The lottery money was for 370,000 for a 5-year project, which meant I got a full-time job.
Right.
I was doing roofing by trade and keeping the place open at the same time. So I just thought
which
this
would have been
great.
Far too much, though.
Yeah, and I just thought this is going to be brilliant, and it has actually saved men's lives. You sit and look back at many members we've had through the doors. And we all have said at the very start that it's going to come to a stage where we're going to lose a few members. I discussed this with Dessie a number of times. They're going to be going to funerals out there, because it's just the dynamics of the age of people coming in here and whatnot. But I think it's extended men's lives, and it's given that wee focus. Instead of vegetating away in the house, sitting watching, I used to say, do you want to watch the Jeremy Kyle show, or do you want to come to the men's shed? So it's given that wee focus, get out of the house, and it gives the wife a breather as well, which is very important.
Yeah. And as you said, Dessie, if there is nobody there, if somebody's on their own and they're retired and they're alone, it definitely gives them a lease of life.
But another aspect I think is worth mentioning too is it's not exclusively which may be deduced from what we've been talking about for crafts people or tradesmen or labourers, anything like that. We've had teachers and office people mixing with the like of us, and people that who never done that, I suppose, only we would have termed here pen pushers.
Yeah.
They've integrated in with us. Sadly, because of the pandemic, I suppose you could say some of our members have found other things to do to keep themselves occupied. One that I know is the wife and I talk to each other now, and we go places where we never thought we'd go before. like, where would that be now? Oh, like holidays abroad, or even we go to Newcastle for a day out, weather permitting, and we like to think ourselves too. Well, okay, we've lost a few, but they're doing things that day now because of, we like to think of the involvement. And that's an example of one person.
So that's a success story in itself.
We find her and I don't fight now. We're not on each other's toes. We get out, because in the beginning we were on each other's feet. Go away, you into town, get a bottle of milk for breakfast, and come home.
My feet for an hour.
And,
give you a bit of pace.
and then another example was, have you nothing to do? I need a paper. Well, why don't you get away into town and get a paper?
Then cut the grass.
And things like that.
Go out and play in the traffic.
So now some of them have found out,
as
yes,
my parents used to say,
we can occupy ourselves with if they're women folk, go and do something together, which may not necessarily have been in the beginning.
Yeah.
So yes, I suppose you can say that some people have got an education out of it here, so they have.
Yeah.
But the pandemic did affect us.
Yeah.
I think it's affected everybody. But what we're going to do now is a big relaunch of the shed, and the lack of your podcast will be very useful for that.
Yeah.
Instead of just that, there's hundreds of men around Armagh should be in a men's shed, and it's just getting them that wee bit of confidence to come down. So I'll be knocking on doors and talking to people for the next few months.
Well, that's it. You need to get more people involved, and the more people that know about it.
And a few younger people involved as well, you know.
Do you have any younger members?
I have a good few young members, haven't I?
Yeah, and
We have plans to establish a vegetable garden, and we have to also do a bit of work with Armagh High School. We've got we're involved in a participatory budget scheme through Triangle Housing Association, and we have a lot of heavy work to do set up a vegetable garden in Armagh High School. So that's why we need younger men involved in it, you know.
Yeah,
and
there's probably a lot of younger men. There's probably a lot of younger men out there as well that maybe they don't want to go to the pub. Maybe they don't drink for whatever reason.
Yeah.
And they still want to get out. They still want to socialise. They still want to meet other people. But they find it difficult to find ways. Maybe they're not involved in sports. Maybe whatever. So
see, our initial funding from the lobby was to do with men 55 and over, but now we are advertising that men 18 plus could come to the shed, because people in Armagh have that idea that I'm too young to go into the men's shed. That's not for me, and wait till I retire. But it's not about men retiring, it's about men that are unemployed, redundant. There's loads of people become redundant because of the COVID.
Yeah.
They're at a loose end. It's just getting them down to let them see the men's shed, and realise they can be part of it as well. So the lack of these fairs we're going to be doing in the next few months is also going to be an advertising chance for us to go out and hand leaflets out and talk to people with the leaflet in their hand.
Yeah.
Like, you can put leaflets in all the cars around the town, and they just threw away.
You should just get
you need to
thrown
talk
off.
to the men about it and explain what the men's shed's about.
That's it. I think there needs to be more explanation about it, so that people understand more.
Yeah, but another aspect that has worked for us, and again, is work in the community, giving back into the community.
Yeah.
And through that there in itself, what are they at? What are they doing? Oh, that's the men's shed. What are they doing? They're picking up litter in the graveyard, so they are, or around the housing estate, cleaning up.
That was good fun, wasn't it?
Oh, it was indeed good fun. But it generates interest, and then who are they, what are they, why are they, where are they, and who pays them? Oh, they're doing it for nothing. What? Yeah. It's community work.
Yeah.
So yes, and that's a way of promoting ourselves is out in.
And helping the schools is good. We think.
I know, helping the schools, yes.
The nursing homes.
We with the choirs, we used to go around once, not once a week, but maybe about once a month. Then it increased around the nursing homes, the residential homes, shall I say, and sing for them. And then we
would at Christmas, probably.
Yes, no, we'd get requests and from others that we hadn't visited to go. So yes, we again giving back into the community. Yeah. And there's the like of that there's a great satisfaction in it, because you see in the old people, I would have done a bit of work in residential homes, and you went in and you seen them all sitting about, And then we come along and sing, and these same people were setting up, and women do this here, so they do. I'm sure it was great. Sure, it was a great lift for us to see that. And it was a great lift for them. Sing
Because you feel like you're being useful
And
as
it brought,
well.
it brought
You
back
still have
memories
a
to them
purpose.
too.
Oh
Like.
yes, reminiscence.
Yeah.
It all
But
Your
you'd
son's
also-
scraping to get in.
You'd also
What?
see people in the nursing homes that
The dog has
come
arrived.
on, a
Thank
second
you,
here.
Ashley.
Just want to have you here.
Ashley.
This is Ashley and Elaine.
Hiya.
Hi,
Ashley
Ashley.
has-
How are you?
Ashley has a hairdresser next door, and she cuts the boys' hair for
Oh, you cut the boy's hair, yeah?
at a very reduced rate.
Reduce for neighbours.
And she, would you like to say a few things about the men's shed when you're here?
Guys are great support to the town. And they're a lovely bunch of fellas, and they're my best neighbours. And I wouldn't like to see them moving about from here. They're like family.
Brilliant.
Armagh men shed have to stay. They're not allowed to go.
I
Well,
don't think they're
we're not
going anywhere.
anywhere.
They're not. They have to stay because I need my buddies. Don't
Do
they?
you see how well she looked after him? He got out the door and up to Ashley.
He's
Yeah.
gorgeous. What's his name
Yeah.
again?
Oscar.
That's Oscar. Wilde.
Oscar. Oh, Oscar Wilde.
I'm way in the middle of doing a blow and go.
Thank you,
I'll
thank
talk to
you.
about the way.
All right,
Thank
Sam.
you.
Bye.
She's a gem. Absolute gem, so she is.
He actually cuts the boys' hair for nothing.
Oh, that's brilliant. Well, she clearly is very, very fond of her neighbours. So,
Oh,
And she supplies us with fresh eggs nearly every
she's
week.
like a mommy to us, so she
Yeah.
is, absolutely.
When we would have a cooking programme on, I say we do a big breakfast, she would supply most of the stuff. She's unbelievable. She'd bring in fresh scones every Thursday, whatever. She just
so this is just, you're a part of the community.
Part of
You're
the
here to
community,
stay,
yeah.
and hopefully you can get some expansion and more people involved. And that's the push in the next few months.
And it's all, we still would put across that health and wellbeing message because we would do a programme every month. You know, I remember the first time we done a bowel cancer awareness session, and I said it was 35 in the room. And at that time, when you're over 60, you got a test kit every 2 years, is it?
Yeah, something like that, yeah.
And most of the men in the room weren't sending the test kit back.
Right.
So this girl, Karen Mooney, she was brilliant at putting herself across, and she explained that the boys said that it was down to the nitty gritty. You know, we didn't see any blood, so we didn't send it back. And she was explaining about hidden blood and blah blah.
Yeah.
So in the next session, she'll come down again, and every person had sent their test kit back,
Right.
and 3 of them got callbacks because of issues with them. But they're lucky enough, it turned out okay. Like.
Right.
But ever since that, the boys have been asking for health programs.
Yeah.
Like
Because that's
the men's-
another thing with men. Men tend to neglect their health more than women. I suppose
Yeah.
women are, because women have babies and everything, they're more used to having to go for checkups and having to do things like that all their lives. So it becomes, whereas men
It's
just
a big,
sort of,
big issue here. You know,
it's a big issue with men in general, I think.
the dementia
You know,
awareness
healthcare.
one was brilliant. You know, we could have heard a pin dropping, and like you had a captive audience for the dementia awareness course. This place was, this was where it was in here, and they were
Right.
hanging out the door. They either were caring for somebody with dementia, or they were afraid of the onset of dementia themselves.
Yeah.
So he was here supposed to be here for an hour. He was here for 2 hours.
Right.
So ever since that and the bowel cancer awareness, the whole thing snowballed. Like we had pancreatic cancer talks, we had different cancer talks. Nutrition was a big thing. But the biggest thing about it all was we got a conversation going with the men about not visiting their GP.
Yeah.
And now I could sit down there and listen to some day all day talking about their aches and pains, and they're encouraging each other to go to the doctor.
Yeah.
Which is a lifesaver, you know.
Yeah, it is. Yeah.
But that's about the whole concept of men's is about promoting health and well-being, but you do it on the men's terms. You know, if you go over there and say a crossroad, I have a health course coming up, be there, nobody will turn up.
Yeah.
When you're in here, you have a captive audience, and the health trust can see we have a captive audience, and they provide us with free health courses all the time. Like, you know.
Yeah. That's brilliant. I
You know,
think
when you
it's,
think of that's happening in every shed around the country, how many men's lives have been saved by getting that information,
yeah.
or been encouraged to go to your doctor, you know.
Yeah.
I know it's very hard to get to the doctor now. It's when Armagh's a nightmare.
Oh yeah. Well, yeah, I know it's very difficult at the moment, but
Phone
hopefully
60
that
or
will
70 times.
hopefully that will be changing now with the restrictions all lifting, because yeah, it is really, really
I think
bad.
before that it was hard to get our doctors, but we would run regular checks with the pharmacists, the local pharmacists,
Yeah.
and they are on call to the boys at any time they want information about the medication, for example.
Yeah.
And then I run a chronic pain course I do 3 a year, and some of the men take part in that. And that gives you different advice on how to cope with your chronic pain. So But involved in the men's shed overall is a lifesaver. Like, you know.
Okay, well, listen, it's been brilliant talking to the two of you.
I didn't even curse that. You notice that?
Well, thanks.
I don't think I'll be editing any of this. I'll be keeping it all in now. It's been lovely talking to you, and I think you're doing great work here. And I hope that you get loads of new members and the sheds expand.
Yeah, I just had like that thing about the latte, because the latte supporting men's sheds all around the north was a lifesaver. You know, it's just you can open a shed, but you need some sort of funding to keep it going. You just
absolutely
can't,
there's too much involved. Yeah,
people have to get rent for their premises.
Exactly,
have to heat the place. The only thing that annoys me is water bills. Even though we're a part of a charter organisation, they still charge us too much for water bills.
Yeah,
and that's a crippling thing for us here. Like, you know.
Well,
but
we persevere on, so we do.
Thanks a million for talking to me, both of you.
And you enjoy your wee presents.
And I have two beautiful presents here that you've given me that I'm going to take home. The tea light holder with lovely robins on it. And this is really nice.
The wee robins and the jars and all, you know.
Thank you so much.
Any simple wee things you do. No, decoupages are so simple for the boys to get on, you know.
Yeah. All right. Thank you very much. Thanks for listening. I hope you enjoyed that chat there with Stiofan and Dessie, and learned a lot more about men's sheds. I certainly did. And I hope they get to recruit a lot more members, and just take a nip over there and have a look. What they do over there it looks great. Remember to keep getting all of your news from Armagh, and I hope you join us next time for our podcast.
From the
I don't know what to say. I'm just speechless.
to the we see all sorts of life-changing moments at McKinney Competitions. How would you react? Cars, houses, tech bundles and more from just £2 a ticket. No purchase necessary. For competitions, rules and conditions, see mckinneycompetitions.com.